March 31st, 2006. It was a Friday. The kind of day where nothing feels out of place. The kind of day where you don't know your life is about to fall apart. Brian Shaffer woke up like any other 27-year-old juggling medical school in grief. Just weeks earlier, he buried his mother, Renee. Cancer. It hit hard. Brian took it even harder. But today was supposed to be a break from the pain. Spring break had arrived at Ohio State University. The halls were buzzing with students planning getaways, catching flights, and hitting bars. Brian, a second-year med student, had just finished his final exams. He had 1 week to breathe before everything started again. That Friday evening, he had dinner with his dad, Randy. They chose Outback Steakhouse. Simple, familiar, safe. It was one of those dinners where silence says more than words. They talked about his mom. They talked about Brian's upcoming trip to Miami with his girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner. And they talked about life, what comes after grief. Randy would later say, Brian seemed tired, but optimistic. No signs of distress. No hint of what was coming. No foreshadowing of one of the most baffling disappearances in U.S. history. After dinner, Randy dropped Brian back at his apartment. It was around 9 p.m. Brian lived near campus, close to where the night would end, or vanish entirely. That night, Brian texted Alexis, told her he loved her, told her he couldn't wait for their trip to Miami in just 2 days. She was already packing, already imagining sand and sun. Brian had other plans that night. Bar hopping, a release, a breath, a night out with friends before vacation. Enter Clint Florence, Brian's close friend and fellow student. Clint picks him up around 9:30 p.m. They head into Columbus's Arena District, a hotspot packed with bars, students, music, and danger hiding in plain sight. They weren't out to get wasted, just to relax, to take the edge off. But something about that night would spiral into pure mystery. They start at a local bar, have a few drinks, take a shot at each place, move from bar to bar like any other pair of friends celebrating freedom. By 11 p.m., they're meeting up with another friend, Meredith Reed, Clint's friend, not especially close with Brian, but part of the night. She offers them a ride. They accept. Together, the trio decides to end the night where it started, the Ugly Tuna Saloona. Yes, that's its real name. A bar located just off campus on the second floor of a building on North High Street. They arrive at 1:15 a.m. Security cameras confirm this. Brian is clearly seen entering. He's wearing a black t-shirt, jeans, tennis shoes. He looks relaxed. He looks normal. It's the last time anyone can say that for sure. From 1:15 to around 1:55 a.m., Brian is inside the bar, drinking, laughing, moving between the crowd and the exit. It's loud, it's packed, and it's exactly where you'd expect to find a 27-year-old trying to shake off grief. At 1:55 a.m., the security footage shows Brian outside the bar talking with two women. They smile. They talk for about a minute. Then Brian walks back toward the entrance. Cameras catch him approaching the doors. But what they don't catch is him leaving. Let that sink in. A man is seen entering a bar. He's seen outside the bar, then walks back toward the door, and he's never seen again. Clint and Meredith wait outside. The bar closes at 2 a.m. Brian doesn't come out. They assume he left on his own. Not a big deal. It's something drunk friends do all the time. They call him. No answer. They go home. But when Saturday comes, there's still no sign of Brian. He doesn't return to his apartment, doesn't answer his phone, and most chillingly, he doesn't show up for his flight to Miami with Alexis. This was the trip he talked about for weeks, the trip he said he needed, and suddenly he's just gone. His car? Still parked at his apartment. His phone? Straight to voicemail. His bank account? Untouched. His social media? Silent. It's as if Brian Shaffer vanished from existence sometime between 2 a.m. and 2:05 a.m. from a bar with only one entrance and one exit. Police are called. Search dogs sweep the building. No scent. Helicopters scan the area. No sign. Officers question the bartenders. Nothing unusual. They comb through surveillance footage, frame by frame, angle by angle, and what they discover is impossible. Brian Shaffer is seen walking into the ugly tuna. He is never seen walking out. Not through the front. Not through the service exit. Not even slipping past in the crowd. There is no video of him leaving. And that is where the real nightmare begins. There are cases that make you question people. This one makes you question reality. April 1st, 2006. Brian Shaffer was officially missing. But this wasn't a slow unraveling. This was a snap, a vanishing that seemed instant. One moment he was standing outside a bar. The next, gone. Vanished. Let's rewind. Minute by minute. The timeline that night is our only map. 9 p.m., Brian finishes dinner with his dad at Outback. He's tired, quiet, still grieving, but he seems okay. A little heavy-eyed, a little distant, nothing out of the ordinary. He's dropped off at his apartment, puts on his black jeans, a striped shirt over a white undershirt and sneakers, grabs his wallet, phone, heads out. 9:30 p.m., Clint Florence picks him up. They hit the Arena District. Bar number 1, a few beers. Bar number 2, they run into classmates. Shots are shared. Bar number 3, music's loud. Brian dances, laughs. This is the first time in weeks anyone's seen him smile. It's the kind of night where everything feels a little blurry but safe, where nothing seems serious until everything is. 11:30 p.m., they call Meredith Reed. She joins them, drives them to the ugly Tuna Saloona, their final stop. It's tucked above a fish market in a sketchy-looking second-floor location. Bright neon signs, narrow staircase, and a single entrance monitored by cameras. 1:15 a.m., the camera catches them entering. All three. Brian, Clint, Meredith. Brian's leaning forward, swaying a bit, but he's walking fine. He's not out of control. Inside, the music is thumping. The bar is packed. Dozens of college students packed shoulder to shoulder. Laughter, shouting, sweat, beer. 1:30 a.m., Brian's seen dancing, talking to a few women, moving around alone. He separates from Clint and Meredith at times. No arguments, no drama, just drifting like people do in a bar. But here's the first weird moment. Clint later says he doesn't remember seeing Brian after 1:45 a.m. No big deal, except 1:55 a.m., a camera catches Brian outside the bar. He's standing with two women, Amber and Brighton. They smile, laugh, chat. He's animated, not slurring, not stumbling. He's not acting like someone in danger. Then, casually, he turns and walks back toward the bar's front doors. That moment is the last time anyone ever sees Brian Shaffer. 2 a.m. last call. The bar shuts down. Security begins ushering people out. Clint and Meredith step outside. They wait. 2 minutes. 5. 10. No Brian. They assume he left through another exit. Maybe he got a ride. Maybe he walked home. They try to call him. No answer. By 2:30 a.m., they're gone. Here's where the timeline fractures. Because from this moment forward, nothing makes sense. Saturday morning, April 1st, Brian doesn't return any calls or texts. His apartment is quiet. His bed untouched. His keys still missing. Alexis tries to reach him. No response. She assumes he's sleeping off a hangover. By noon, she's worried. By 3 p.m., she's scared. By sunset, she's calling the police. Columbus PD logs it. A college student who didn't come home. It happens all the time. They chalk it up to partying. Maybe a hookup. But Sunday comes. Then Monday. Still no sign. And Brian misses his flight to Miami. That's when everything changes. Alexis is hysterical. She tells police he was excited. He packed. He was supposed to meet me at the gate, but he never showed. His luggage? Untouched. His phone? Still dead. His car? Still sitting in the exact spot outside his apartment. This isn't someone avoiding responsibility. This isn't someone running away. This is a man who vanished mid-sentence. April 3rd. Brian is officially declared missing. Detectives pull security footage from the ugly tuna. What they see chills them to the bone. Brian walks in at 1:15 a.m. He walks out briefly at 1:55 a.m., talks to the two women. Then he walks back toward the entrance. But on no camera angle, not inside, not at the entrance, not even in the service hallway, is Brian Shaffer seen leaving. Not even once. They rewind. They zoom in. They analyze every frame. They look for reflections, shadows, camera blind spots. Nothing. It's as if he vanished between the frames. Police ask the women, Amber and Brighton, what he said. They recall small talk, flirting, nothing strange, no mention of going anywhere. They thought he was walking back in to say goodbye to friends. Now, police focus on the only other way out of the bar, the service exit. It leads to a dark, sketchy alley behind the building, an active construction site. But there are problems with that theory. It's extremely dangerous. It's pitch black. Security cameras cover that hallway too. And most importantly, there is no footage of Brian going near it. They bring in cadaver dogs. No scent. They search the rooftops. Nothing. They check hospitals, jails, shelters. Still nothing. This is when investigators begin to realize they're not dealing with a simple disappearance. They're dealing with something else entirely. Something with no logic, no trail, no witnesses, no noise, no sign of a struggle. Brian was standing under a security camera at 1:55 a.m. And somehow, in the minutes that followed, he vanished without being seen leaving. Not through the front, not through the back, not up, not down, gone. His friends are interviewed. Clint is calm, cooperative, but refuses a polygraph, raises eyebrows. Alexis is heartbroken, distraught, takes one, passes. So does Meredith. The last people to see him say the same thing. We don't know where he went. His bank account? Untouched since that night. His cell phone? Silent. Then, months later, something strange happens. September 2006. Brian's phone rings. Once. It pings a cell tower in Hilliard, Ohio, 14 miles away. But it's not clear if it was a glitch, a trick, or someone else with a phone. Investigators track it, but find nothing. Just another dead lead. The city starts to buzz with rumors. People say he faked his death, that he ran off, that he was murdered and hidden inside the building. Some even suggest the bar staff are covering it up, but no evidence supports any of it. Not a single piece of physical evidence is ever recovered. No blood, no body, no clothing, not even a shoe. Every minute was accounted for, except for the ones that mattered. 2 a.m. The bar closes. 2:01. Crowds shuffle out. 2:02. Cameras scan. Nothing. 2:03. Brian is missing. 1 minute. One man. Gone forever. In modern investigations, security footage is the ultimate witness. It doesn't lie. It doesn't forget. It captures what our eyes miss. Unless it doesn't, unless what it shows defies reality. The Ugly Tuna Saloona had 2 visible cameras. One at the front entrance, angled just above the stairs. One inside, facing the bar's interior. Combined, they offered a full view of the only known entrance and exit. At least, that's what the Columbus Police Department believed when they pulled the footage. They watched it once, twice, dozens of times, and every single time it told the same story. Brian Shaffer walks in. He is never seen walking out. 1:15 a.m. entry. Confirmed. Brian walks up the staircase, talking with Clint and Meredith. He looks loose, calm, focused. Inside the bar, he's seen laughing, ordering drinks, talking to other patrons. A timestamp confirms the moment. 1:55 a.m. Exit, but only temporarily. Brian walks out of the bar. He stands just outside the front doors, talks to 2 women, Amber and Brighton. They flirt, laugh. He's smiling. Then he turns, moves back toward the bar, disappears from view. Now, that's where everything breaks. Because the next thing police expected to see, Brian exiting again, never happens. Detectives comb through every camera angle. Inside, outside, behind the bar, near the restrooms, the hallway to the service exit, the stairwell. Brian is gone. Let's break down why this doesn't make sense. Theory 1, he left through the front door. That's the only official entrance and exit. There's a camera right there. Every single patron is seen entering and leaving, except Brian. If he had exited through the front, it would have been recorded. It wasn't. Theory 2, the service exit. There was a back hallway used by staff. It led to a freight elevator and a messy construction zone behind the building. It was dark, dangerous, not meant for patrons, and there was a camera covering that hallway too. Police reviewed that footage. No Brian. Could he have slipped past a blind spot? Detectives examined every inch of the layout. There was one minor blind spot just beside the escalator that led to the bar's entrance. But to exit undetected, Brian would have had to wait for a perfect moment, time his steps exactly, avoid the camera's sweep, evade the crowds, walk through construction debris without falling, all without anyone seeing him, at 2 a.m., on a packed Friday night, while drunk. And remember, he never mentioned leaving, never texted anyone, left no clue. But here's where things get truly bizarre. The bar was on the second floor, accessible only by stairs or elevator. The freight elevator required a key, only available to employees. No one on staff saw him. No one helped him. No emergency exits were tripped. No alarms went off. Nothing in the construction zone showed signs of anyone passing through. It's like the building swallowed him whole. Police even brought in building engineers. They asked, is there any way someone could hide in the ceiling? The vents? Behind a wall? The answer? No. There were no crawl spaces, no unmonitored exits, no hidden maintenance doors. If someone wanted to disappear from that bar, they'd need magic. This wasn't a failure of security. This was something else. Months later, detectives returned to the footage. They watched again, obsessed with angles. They tried enhancing the video, checking shadows, zooming in on every figure that exited. Could Brian have changed clothes? Put on a hat? Walked out disguised? Theory 3. Disguise or misdirection. It sounds like something out of a heist movie, but it's not impossible. Brian could have swapped jackets with someone, pulled on a hoodie, kept his head down. But here's the problem. There's no moment in the footage where someone of his build, 6 feet, 2 inches, 170 pounds, suddenly appears out of nowhere. Even with a disguise, he'd still look like him. And no one ever recognized him in the crowd. Detectives had experts analyze gait, movement, posture, no match. Which brings us to one more theory, one that's haunted this case for years. Theory 4, inside job. What if Brian never left alive? What if someone hurt him inside the bar? What if his body was hidden before the crowd emptied out? Far-fetched? Maybe. But remember this, the bar was under construction. There were tools, supplies, equipment in rooms off-limits to patrons. No one searched those areas that night. What if, during that chaotic last 15 minutes, Brian was attacked, hidden behind a temporary wall or beneath construction debris, smuggled out after the bar emptied? The idea is chilling and unproven. Police scoured those rooms the next morning. They found no blood, no clothing, no evidence. But by then, nearly 12 hours had passed. That window was all a killer would need. So the footage becomes a riddle. He walks in. He is never seen leaving. Not alive. Not dead. Not disguised. Not hidden. Just gone. The Columbus police spent hundreds of hours watching that footage. At one point, they brought in the FBI. Their conclusion? This case is unlike anything we've seen. They sent out flyers. Asked the public, did you see Brian Shaffer? That night? That week? Tips flooded in. Someone said he was seen in Michigan. Another claimed he was in Sweden. A woman swore she saw him on a beach in the Bahamas. Each tip was investigated. Each one led to nothing. The surveillance footage remained the only constant. A haunting video loop of a man walking in and never walking out. Some believe he was murdered inside that bar. Some say he ran. Others say something far darker happened. A cover-up, a secret, a conspiracy. But every theory hits the same brick wall. The footage that shows everything and still answers nothing. When you watch it, you're left with one thought. Where did Brian go? Every disappearance starts as a mystery, but the deeper you dig, the more personal it gets. What begins as a man vanishing quickly turns into a web of secrets, lies, and loyalty. At the center of it all, the people closest to Brian. Let's start with the inner circle, the last to see him alive. Clint Florence, Brian's close friend, drinking buddy, and classmate. Meredith Reed, the woman who gave him a ride to the ugly tuna. Alexis Wagoner, Brian's girlfriend, the one he planned to marry. And Randy Shaffer, Brian's father, the man who refused to stop searching. After Brian vanished, police turned inward. Because when a person disappears with no physical trace, you look at the people who knew them best. And that's when things get strange. Clint Florence, the loyal friend, or something else. At first, Clint was cooperative. He gave a full statement. He told investigators everything they wanted to know. According to Clint, we had a fun night. Nothing unusual. He just disappeared. But when detectives asked him to take a polygraph, he refused. Not once, multiple times. He lawyered up, went completely silent. Now, technically, that's his right. No one has to take a polygraph. They aren't even admissible in court. But in a case with no clues, refusing one sends a message. And for Randy Shaffer, Brian's father, that message was loud. If Clint had nothing to hide, he said, why wouldn't he take it? Police began to push harder. They looked into Clint's behavior that night. He stayed at the bar longer than Brian. He never left with him. He didn't check in the next day. He didn't help organize searches. And when media got involved, he vanished. No interviews, no public statements, no offers to help. Just silence. Years passed, still no polygraph. No word from Clint. Reporters tracked him down years later, living in Atlanta, Georgia. They asked, what happened to Brian? He said, I told everything I know. I've moved on. But Alexis didn't move on. She was devastated. Alexis Wagoner, the almost fiancée. Brian and Alexis were planning to leave for Miami the day after he disappeared. That trip was meant to be something more. Alexis later revealed, I thought he might propose on that trip. Instead, she was left with silence. No goodbye, no closure. She tried everything, calling his phone every day, leaving voicemails, begging him to come home, creating flyers, talking to the media, cooperating with police. She even took a polygraph, passed it. Her voice cracked in every interview. The same question every time. Where did you go, Brian? Then something unbelievable happened. Months after his disappearance, she called his phone again. This time, it rang. Mobile phone once. Then silence. AT&T confirmed the ping. From a tower in Hilliard, Ohio, 14 miles away. Police rushed to investigate, but the lead went cold. There was no phone, no Brian, no answer. Meredith Reed, the driver that night. Meredith was a mutual friend, not part of Brian's daily life. But she gave him a ride that night, so her timeline was critical. She told police, I dropped them off. We hung out. He disappeared. She, too, took a polygraph. She passed. She cooperated. Shared everything she knew. No red flags. Still, rumors circled. Some speculated she was jealous of Alexis, that she may have been interested in Brian. But again, no evidence. Just whispers. Randy Shaffer, the father who refused to quit. Of all the people affected by Brian's disappearance, no one searched harder than Randy. He was relentless. He walked alleys, searched abandoned buildings, hung posters across Ohio, gave interviews, begged for answers, and every time the trail went cold, he got back up and searched again. He organized candlelight vigils. He pleaded with Clint to cooperate. He even offered a reward. But as months passed, Randy grew bitter. Someone knows something, he said, and they're not talking. Then tragedy struck. Randy died in 2008, a freak accident, hit by a falling tree during a storm. In his obituary, family wrote, "We hope Brian and his father are finally together." Why the silence? This is where the story starts to turn. Because while there's no evidence of foul play, there's a pattern of avoidance. Clint, his silence, his refusal to help. Meredith, staying quiet after her interview. Alexis, heartbroken but left in the dark. It created a vacuum. And into that vacuum rush theories. Was Clint jealous? Did something go wrong that night? Was Brian hurt accidentally? Did friends panic and cover it up? Or was there a secret no one ever uncovered? The mental health theory. One idea floated by police was that Brian may have had a psychotic break. The recent loss of his mother, med school pressure, alcohol. Could he have snapped? Left everything behind? Some say yes. Others say absolutely not. Alexis insists he was grieving, but he wasn't unstable. He had plans. Brian's professors agree. So did his father. There was no history of mental illness, no breakdowns, no red flags. And remember, he left his car, his keys, his passport, his credit cards. If he planned to vanish, he did it without tools. The accidental death theory. This one haunts a lot of people. The theory is simple. Brian got drunk, wandered, fell somewhere, died. Maybe in the construction zone, maybe in a shaft, a river, a place no one thought to check. But investigators searched every corner. Dogs, drones, infrared cameras. Nothing. No blood, no clothing, no trace. Someone knows the truth. That's the theory Brian's family clings to. That someone somewhere knows what really happened. Someone who was at the bar. Someone who left early. Someone who helped. Or looked away. But after all these years, no one has talked. The circle of friends grew smaller. And tighter. And more silent. Brian's world once felt full of life. Now it echoes with a single haunting question. Why won't they talk? By now, the case of Brian Shaffer had turned from a local mystery into a national obsession. People weren't just asking what happened. They were certain they knew. And that's when the ghost sightings began. The haunting begins. It started small. A blurry photo. A figure in the background. A man sitting alone at a diner in Toledo, Ohio. Someone posted it online. This guy looks exactly like Brian Shaffer. The internet exploded. Reddit threads, Facebook groups, YouTube theories. But it wasn't him. Police checked the man out. He had ID, a job, a history. Not Brian. But the sightings didn't stop. A tourist swore she saw him on a beach in Tulum, Mexico. A barista claimed he came into her coffee shop in Pennsylvania, ordered black coffee, and said nothing. A bartender in Las Vegas said a quiet guy walked in, gave a fake name, but had sad eyes and looked exactly like him. Each time, detectives followed up. Nothing. And then came the weirdest tip yet. The cell phone ping, Hilliard, Ohio. It was months after Brian had vanished. Alexis was still calling his phone almost every night. She'd leave voicemails, say things like, "Please come back. Just tell me you're okay." Then one night, it rang. Once. She froze. Then it went to voicemail. AT&T confirmed the impossible. Brian's phone had connected to a tower. Location, Hilliard, Ohio, just outside Columbus, roughly 14 miles away. Police traced the ping to a cell tower near a strip mall. They raced there, checked every store, searched parking lots, reviewed surveillance footage. Nothing. No Brian. No phone. No lead. AT&T later explained, sometimes phones will ring once even if they're dead. It's called a ghost ring. It doesn't mean the phone is actually on. But Alexis didn't believe that. Neither did Brian's dad. To them, it meant he was alive, somewhere. Online theories, the runaway doctor? As forums exploded, one theory took hold. Brian faked his death. He's alive, living off-grid. The evidence? He hated med school. He loved music. He talked often about escaping, starting over, going somewhere warmer. Was it a joke? A fantasy? Or a real plan? Some believed he left Ohio, started a new life in the Caribbean, maybe under a fake name, working on a boat, playing guitar, living free. It would make for a wild story. But again, no passport, no financial activity. No one close to him ever hinted he'd actually do it. And Brian was loyal to his family, to Alexis, to his dying mother. Could he really abandon them? The homeless man theory. Years later, a viral Facebook post spread. Brian Shaffer is homeless. I saw him in Cleveland. Police followed the tip, found the man. Again, not Brian. But something strange happened. The man said, "People keep asking me if I'm him. Happens all the time." Was it because of the resemblance? Or did Brian's case leave a psychological fingerprint across Ohio? Everyone thought they saw him. Because everyone was looking. The police roadblocks. By the 5-year mark, detectives had hit a wall. They still had no witnesses, no suspects, no confirmed sightings, and no body. They reviewed the ugly tuna footage dozens more times, with better software, new eyes, still nothing. They re-questioned friends, re-interviewed bartenders, even spoke to patrons who'd moved out of state. No one remembered anything helpful. Just, he was there. He was drunk. Then he wasn't. The stranger danger theory. Online sleuths pointed to another idea. What if someone followed Brian into the bar? A random person. A stranger. Maybe someone who didn't like how Brian looked at their girlfriend. Or someone who wanted to rob him. Or worse. But again, no evidence. No one remembers a confrontation. There's nothing on video. And remember, no struggle. No screams. No blood. Identity theft? Some theorists believe Brian may have been the victim of a dark scheme. That he was drugged. His identity stolen. His body dumped far from Columbus. It would explain the clean exit. It would explain the ping. But there's zero forensic evidence. And nothing turned up in identity fraud reports. No mysterious Brian lookalikes applying for credit or getting medical care. The friend knows more theory. One theory never went away. That someone from that night, someone in the friend group, knew more than they told police. Not necessarily a killer, but someone who saw something, heard something, or helped cover something up. Because here's the twist. When police asked Clint Florence to take another polygraph, he refused again. When reporters reached out for comment in later years, he went silent. Even now, 2025, Clint has never taken a polygraph, never given another interview. The case goes cold. Years passed, tips dried up, the investigation stalled. But Brian's image remained on billboards, websites, forums. A smiling med student, vanished without a trace. Then something chilling happened. In 2020, the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation released an age-progressed image, a rendering of what Brian might look like now, in his 40s, more mature, more tired, but still with those same piercing eyes. The image went viral. People swore they'd seen him. In Georgia, in Europe, even in Japan. All were false. But the image did something else. It reminded the world that this case isn't just a mystery. It's a person. A life interrupted. A story that never got its ending. What makes this case so terrifying is not just that a man disappeared. It's how he disappeared. In a crowded bar, under surveillance, without a trace, without noise, without warning. A missing person is a wound that never heals. But when there are no answers, no remains, it's not just a wound. It's a prison. And for the Shaffer family, it destroyed everything. This chapter isn't about theories. It's about what was left behind, and the chilling clue that emerged just before the silence swallowed it all. The grief of Randy Shaffer. After Brian vanished, his father, Randy, became the face of the search. He was tireless, devoted, obsessed. He hung missing posters until his fingers bled, walked alleyways at midnight, paced the same streets his son did, hoping to see his face again. "I'll never stop looking," he told reporters. "Not until I know." But behind the strength was a man shattered. His wife, Brian's mother, had just died of cancer. Now his son was gone too. And the worst part? He couldn't grieve, because there was nothing to grieve. No body, no goodbye, just questions. Randy became consumed by the case. He kept binders, pages of notes, maps, interviews. He tracked timelines like a detective. He built theories, ruled them out, built new ones. He believed two things. Brian did not leave on his own. Someone he knew was hiding the truth. He publicly called out Clint Florence, Brian's best friend. If he had nothing to hide, he'd take the polygraph. He begged Clint to speak. Clint stayed silent. A family drifts apart. While Randy searched, Brian's younger brother, Derek, pulled away. He believed the worst. He's gone, Derek said in a rare interview. He wouldn't leave us behind. But Derek couldn't keep chasing a ghost. He wanted to move on, have a life. The media attention, the false leads, the pain, it took a toll. Eventually, the two stopped talking. The Shaffer family, what was left of it, fractured, not out of hate, but exhaustion. The case had devoured them all. Randy's final days. In September 2008, just over 2 years after Brian vanished, tragedy struck again. A powerful windstorm ripped through central Ohio. Randy was outside clearing debris when a tree branch snapped and crushed him. He died instantly. No final message. No warning. Just gone. Just like Brian. When police entered Randy's home, they found boxes all labeled Brian evidence. Brian leads. Brian suspects. He had been searching for his son until his last breath. At his funeral, friends said, he died with a broken heart. Some wondered if it was fate, if Randy left this world to join his son. But others saw it differently. Maybe now he'll finally get the answers the world never gave him. A chilling online message. But then something strange happened. Shortly after Randy's death, an anonymous post surfaced on a university message board. It read, Brian's not dead. He's still out there. Trust me. I've seen him. It was quickly deleted, but someone screenshotted it. IP tracing led nowhere. A proxy server. No real identity. Was it a hoax? Maybe, but it came days after Randy's death. Was it a cruel prank? Or someone loosening their grip on a secret, knowing Randy was gone? Police tried to follow the lead, but the post was too vague, too fleeting. It became just another dead end. The eBay clue. 2 years later, another strange tip surfaced. A user on Reddit claimed to have purchased a guitar from an Ohio pawn shop. Inside the case, a folded napkin with the name, Brian S., and the number 370 written below it. People went wild. Could it mean something? Was it a room number? A date? An address? Or a sick coincidence? Police examined the case. Tested for fingerprints. Nothing conclusive. No DNA. No confirmation the guitar ever belonged to Brian. But it added to the eerie list of almost clues, each one whispering he might still be out there. Revisiting the surveillance. In 2017, private investigators used enhanced facial recognition software to review the ugly tuna footage, frame by frame. And for the first time, they noticed something. A man in a hoodie, seen twice, moving opposite the crowd, never facing the camera, lingering near the service entrance. They zoomed in. He was never identified. Police were informed, but the trail had grown cold. Years had passed. The footage was too grainy to be definitive. But what if that man followed Brian? What if he used a staff door, a back exit? What if Brian saw something he wasn't supposed to? Or worse, what if he knew the man? Alexis moves on, but never forgets. Brian's girlfriend, Alexis Wagoner, waited years. She never changed her number, kept her email, visited his favorite spots, hoped for a call, a letter, anything. But eventually, life pushed forward. She became a doctor, moved out of state, got married. But in interviews, she says, a part of me still wonders if I'll see him again. Maybe in a crowd, maybe walking past a coffee shop window. What remains? Brian Shaffer's case is still listed as open and active. He was declared legally dead in 2019, but the case has never been closed. There is no evidence of death, no confirmed sighting, no body, no final clue, just a man, a bar, and a moment that vanished into silence. The final words. The most haunting part of Brian's story isn't how it ended. It's that it never did. It just stopped. And for those who loved him, that's the cruelest mystery of all. Somewhere out there, a man might still be alive, or a secret might still be kept, and until that truth surfaces, Brian Shaffer remains, the man who vanished in a bar. A man vanishes, but the mystery refuses to die. Years pass, the official investigation stalls, and yet, Brian Shaffer's name keeps showing up. In forums, on Reddit, in YouTube rabbit holes, on TikTok. The internet won't let him go. The Reddit revolution. In 2011, something shifted. Brian's case was featured on Reddit's r/unresolved mysteries, one of the internet's most active communities for cold cases. Within hours, the thread exploded. Tens of thousands of upvotes, hundreds of amateur sleuths, people analyzing footage, drawing floor plans, recreating the scene. One user posted, "I'm obsessed with this case. He walked into a bar and never came out." That's not just a mystery, that's a glitch in reality. Users pored over every frame of the ugly tuna surveillance, tracked every public statement from his friends, reverse-engineered timelines. They proposed theories the police never confirmed. Brian was attacked and hidden in a janitor's closet. He was seen on the roof, climbing down a fire escape. The cameras had blind spots the bar never disclosed. The disguised exit theory. One theory went viral in 2013. It claimed Brian left in disguise. The footage showed Brian last seen at 1:55 a.m. But what if he changed clothes? Or borrowed someone else's hoodie? Internet sleuths suggested he swapped shirts with another man. Walked out unnoticed. Free. They matched frames. Compared clothing. Analyzed shadows. This guy's build is similar. The walk is off, but it's grainy. Police never confirmed it. But online, the theory stuck. The map that made it worse. A user created a 3D simulation of the bar. Every entrance, every hallway, even staff-only doors. It showed one chilling possibility. There was a service exit with a camera above it, but the camera was never working. What if Brian went that way? What if something happened in the unwatched space? Suddenly, everyone wanted to know. Why was that camera off? Who had access? Why wasn't it fixed? No answers came. The rise of TikTok detectives. Fast forward to 2020. Brian's case goes viral again, this time on TikTok. True crime creators begin dissecting the mystery in bite-sized videos. The hashtag Brian Shaffer racks up millions of views. And with every video, a new wave of interest. One creator posted a chilling theory. What if Brian never left the building because he never had to? What if someone working there, someone he trusted, did something? Another one hinted, there's always one frame missing in every story. The one no one notices until it's too late. The doctor's secret theory. Some online theorists point to a darker angle. Brian was a med student, about to start rotations. He was grieving, exhausted, anxious. What if he wanted out? Could he have faked his death? This theory split the internet. Some believed it was desperate wishful thinking. Others pointed to the gaps. Brian had no history of mental illness. He had a girlfriend, a planned future. But one Redditor claiming to be a medical student in 2006 added fuel. You'd be shocked how easy it was back then to vanish. No biometrics, no ring cameras. If he had a connection at the hospital, he could have swapped IDs, disappeared into the system. No proof, but the theory stayed. The email that broke the internet. In 2021, a chilling message appeared on a defunct forum dedicated to Brian's case. Subject line, "Ugly tuna, I was there." The user claimed they worked in maintenance at the Gateway Complex in 2006. In the post, they wrote, "There were areas in that building you couldn't access unless you had clearance. Brian went into one. He never came out. I saw something I shouldn't have." Then, the post was deleted. Account gone. No IP traceable. The mods claimed it was real. Police were notified. But again, nothing came of it. Just another message swallowed by time. AI joins the case. In 2023, a cold case podcast used AI image enhancement on the original bar footage. They ran facial recognition, analyzed movement, mapped crowd density. One frame showed something odd, a shadow that moved in the wrong direction. While everyone funneled toward the exit, one silhouette turned inward toward the back corridor. Was it Brian or someone following him? The AI flagged it as inconclusive but anomalous. Again, police reviewed it. No charges, no closure. The face in Panama? In late 2023, a TikTok user on vacation in Panama recorded a street musician. In the background, a man walked by, looked into the camera. The comments exploded. Wait, is that Brian Shaffer? The facial resemblance was uncanny, down to the eyes, the nose, even the same slightly uneven smile. The video was analyzed, frame by frame, compared to Brian's old photos. It wasn't him, just a doppelganger. Again, but every time this happens, one question lingers. What if one day it's not a lookalike? Clues or cruelty? Over the years, Brian's family has received letters claiming he's alive, tips about him in Brazil, calls at 3 a.m. with nothing but breathing. Each one rips the wound open again. Each one gives hope, then smashes it. Derek Schaefer once said, "It's like someone's playing God with our pain." The internet's role. Some believe the web has helped, raised awareness, kept the case alive. Others believe it's turned tragedy into spectacle. But one thing's certain, Brian Shaffer lives on digitally, in threads, in videos, in theories. The case refuses to die because it touches something primal. How does a man vanish without a trace in a place full of people, lights, and cameras? And now, the digital trail leads us to a moment, a final breadcrumb, one that changes everything. But you'll have to wait for Chapter 8, because what happens next could shatter everything we thought we knew. 2 years, no body, no trace, and then a phone call, the call that changed everything. August 2008, 2 years and 4 months after Brian vanished. A private investigator hired by the Shaffer family decides to call Brian's phone. They're not expecting anything. It's just routine. But this time, it rings 3 times, then straight to voicemail. Brian's voicemail picks up. Same old message, same friendly voice. But something's different now. The investigator hangs up, stunned. Tries again. It rings again. This doesn't make sense. The phone had been dead for months. Shut off. Disconnected. So, how did it suddenly ring? The ping. The cell phone company confirms it. Brian's phone pinged a tower in Hilliard, Ohio, 14 miles northwest of where he disappeared. The tower logs it. One single ping. Then, silence. No more rings. No more signals. Nothing. The theories ignite. This one event shatters everything. If the phone rang, someone had it. If someone had it, were they Brian or someone else? Could he be alive? In hiding? Or had someone kept his phone all this time? Online sleuths break this down endlessly. Theory 1. Brian faked his death. If he was hiding, he may have kept the phone for emergencies, used it once, accidentally powered it on, then vanished again. But this theory crumbles under scrutiny. He had no history of wanting to disappear. His bank accounts were never touched. His passport was never used. Nothing. Theory 2. The phone was in someone else's hands. This made more sense. If someone killed Brian and kept the phone, they may have accidentally turned it on during a data transfer, phone swap, or when tossing an old SIM card. The idea. The killer got careless. But that theory had its own flaw. Why Hilliard? What's in Hilliard? The Hilliard connection. Investigators looked into it. Hilliard was a quiet suburb. Residential. Safe. Nothing tied to Brian. No friends there. No family. Except for one thing. An ex-employee from the Ugly Tuna was now living there. A bouncer. Name withheld. He had left the bar 2 weeks after Brian's disappearance. When questioned, he denied knowing anything. Claimed he moved for unrelated reasons. But his records showed he bought a used phone the same week of the ping. Coincidence? Maybe. But when asked for the phone, he said it was lost, digital footprints. A hacker-turned-investigator on Reddit tried to trace the ping. They narrowed the tower's coverage, created a heat map, matched it to devices in the area. 3 numbers showed up again and again. 2 were business lines. The third, a burner phone, registered to no name, used once, then destroyed. The polygraph that went nowhere. The bouncer agreed to a polygraph. He passed, but those close to the case said it didn't sit right. His answers were narrow, technical, scripted. One former detective said, "It felt like talking to someone who practiced their truth, not someone who lived it." DNA, bones, and a mistake. In 2014, police thought they had a breakthrough. Skeletal remains were found in a wooded area near the Olentangy River. A male, similar height. The bones had trauma. People held their breath. But the DNA didn't match. It wasn't Brian. It was another missing man. Another family destroyed. Another dead end. The bar's dirty secrets. By 2016, the ugly Tuna Saloon had closed. The building was gutted, turned into retail space. During renovations, a worker claimed he found a locked storage unit in the basement, one not listed on original blueprints. Police were called. It was opened, empty, but a piece of carpet inside had dark stains. Sent for testing. No blood detected. No match. But this unlocked a new rumor. The bar had a basement, and parts of it had never been searched because no one knew they existed. The lie that cracked a friendship. In 2017, Clint, Brian's friend who was with him the night he vanished, was interviewed by a podcaster. Off the record. Anonymous voice. During the chat, he let something slip. "I told the cops we split up at 1:30, but that's not exactly true." He immediately backtracked. "I mean, I don't remember clearly. It was late. We'd been drinking." But the damage was done. For years, Clint had insisted they parted ways before closing time. Now, he wasn't so sure. Or maybe he never was. The podcaster went public with the interview. Suddenly, everyone was asking, why did Clint lie? Still no charges. Still no Brian. The call. The ping. The lie. None of it led to answers. No arrests. No confessions. No closure. Just more smoke. More noise. More silence. A glitch in reality. Brian's case has been called a real-world riddle. A perfect vanishing act. An unsolvable puzzle. But maybe the scariest part isn't the unknown. Maybe it's this. What if the answer is so close, so ordinary, we just refuse to believe it? Next, Chapter 9, Theories that will keep you up at night. Because everything you've heard so far might be the setup for something much darker. And it all starts with a name buried deep in the investigation. One no one expected. What if Brian didn't vanish by accident? What if someone made him disappear? And what if that person was closer than we ever imagined? A dangerous pattern. To understand the nightmare this case could become, we need to look outside Columbus. Across the country, a chilling trend has emerged. Young men, late 20s, good careers, popular, educated, last seen leaving bars, alone, intoxicated, then gone. Bodies found in rivers. Weeks later, no signs of trauma. The media called it a coincidence. But others, they called it something else. The smiley face killers. The smiley face theory. In the mid-2000s, 2 retired detectives, Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, noticed a pattern. They linked over 40 cases across 11 states. Victims, white males, college-aged, vanished near water. No robbery. No motive. Some had smiley face graffiti nearby, including one in Columbus, just months before Brian disappeared. Could Brian have been a victim? His case matched almost every marker. Male, 27. Last seen intoxicated. Near a bar. No body. No signs of a struggle. But one detail didn't fit. No water. There was no river next to the ugly tuna. Unless he was taken. Was it a network? The darkest version of this theory suggests something terrifying. A network of individuals operating in multiple cities, watching, targeting, taking victims, erasing them. Critics called it paranoia. No proof, no surveillance, no direct connection. But ask the families, they'll tell you the pattern is there. The grief is the same. And Brian fit the profile too well. The man in the hoodie. In 2019, a podcast host claimed they were sent unreleased footage from the Ugly Tuna, said to be leaked from inside the original police archive. One frame shows a man, hood up, face turned away, loitering near a staff door for over 20 minutes. He's never identified, never questioned. He appears in no interviews, no police files. Who was he? And why was that angle never released to the public? The Journal. A former Ohio State University student came forward in 2021. She claimed she dated one of Brian's classmates in 2006. After the disappearance, she said he became obsessed with the case, started keeping a notebook, drawing maps, writing timelines, sketching faces. She dismissed it as paranoia until he moved out and left the journal behind. Inside were disturbing entries. He walked out on camera at 1:55 a.m. But where was he at 1:57? Nobody leaves without being seen unless they're not leaving. What if the bar was the trap? One page simply read, "The door behind the ice machine." She turned it over to a podcast team. They shared parts online. Police refused to comment. Was it rambling or a clue everyone missed? The door behind the ice machine. In 2022, a building maintenance worker who'd helped renovate the former Ugly Tuna came forward. He said there was indeed a narrow door hidden behind the old ice machine. It wasn't on the floor plan, was likely added illegally, and it led to a mechanical shaft connecting to the basement. He described it as pitch black, tight space, no cameras, no reason to be there. If Brian went in or was taken in, he may never have been seen again. But here's the twist. The shaft was never searched. Why? Because no one knew it existed. Not police, not staff, no one. The private investigator's warning. In 2023, an ex-cop turned PI who worked on the case gave a cryptic interview. He said, "You want to know what happened to Brian Shaffer? Ask the person who passed the polygraph too easily." When asked who he meant, he refused to name them. Just said this. The biggest clue in this case was a question no one ever asked. The missing question. What question? Some speculate it was this. Who had keys to the building? Think about it. The staff, the cleaning crew, the bar owners. They knew every blind spot, every door, every place a body could be hidden, yet none of them were ever formally treated as suspects. No warrants, no forensics, no deep dives. Why? The building wasn't searched, not completely. In a now-deleted police forum post, an anonymous officer claimed, "We never got full access. The building manager gave us clearance for 2 floors, not the basement. We were told the third space was leased privately and locked. That was the end of it." So here's the question that changes everything. What was in that third space? And who was leasing it? The silence is louder than any clue. Brian's case isn't just cold, it's frozen. And maybe that's by design. Maybe someone made sure it would stay buried. Because in every version of this story, there's a hole, an empty space where the truth should be, and whoever filled it made sure they were never caught. The final chapter awaits. Brian Shaffer's story isn't over. Because just when it seemed like the trail had gone cold, a new witness came forward. One who says they saw Brian. Not in 2006, but years later, in a country he was never supposed to be in. 12 years after Brian Shaffer vanished, a man walks into a Canadian library. He's alone, scruffy, wearing sunglasses indoors. He doesn't speak, just sits, reads, then walks out. But a librarian notices something strange. The man leaves behind a brochure. Inside it, a scribbled name, Brian Shaffer. Vancouver, 2018. The librarian thinks it's odd, but shrugs it off. Until 2 weeks later, she hears a podcast about a man who vanished from a bar. In Ohio, In 2006, his name? Brian Shaffer. She stares at the screen, then back at the scribbled note she kept. Her hands shake. A witness steps forward. The librarian contacts Canadian authorities. They investigate. Security footage from that day shows a man, tall, same build as Brian, similar gait, same distinctive lazy eye. But here's the kicker. He's wearing the same Pearl Jam hoodie Brian was last seen in. Investigators zoom in. Enhance the footage. There's no clear face shot. No fingerprints. But something stands out. He looks at the camera and smirks, just for a second, like he knows someone's watching. The Pearl Jam connection. Brian was obsessed with Pearl Jam. He had tickets to see them in 2006. The show was after his disappearance. He never made it. But in 2018, the band toured again. One of their stops? Vancouver. The date? The same day the man visited the library. Did Brian resurface? Was it a coincidence? Or was someone taunting those still searching? A new lead quickly shut down. Canadian authorities contact the FBI. Footage is sent, analyzed, compared, and then everything goes dark. No updates, no statements. The librarian is told it's being handled, but she never hears back. A mysterious tip from Mexico. A traveler in Tulum says they met a man at a beach bar. Quiet, alone. He introduced himself as Brian. American, from Ohio. When asked why he was in Mexico, he just laughed. Long story, he said. Got lost a long time ago. They only spoke for 5 minutes, but the woman who met him says he looked exactly like Brian Shaffer. She only realized the possible connection later while watching a Netflix true crime series. She reported it. No follow-up. No response. Is someone hiding the truth? 2 sightings. 2 years apart. Both chillingly close to reality. Still no DNA. No confirmation. No Brian. Just whispers. And questions. Too many questions. What if he didn't want to be found? Here's the theory that unnerves even the closest investigators. What if Brian isn't missing? What if he's hiding? What if he walked into the dark that night because he chose to? Pain changes people. His mother's death devastated him. He once told a friend, "Sometimes I wish I could just disappear and start over." What if he did? And what if someone helped him? A psychological break? One psychologist who reviewed the case said this: the trauma of losing a parent can trigger extreme behaviors, especially in those who suppress grief. Dissociative episodes, amnesia, even fugue states are rare but real. In short, Brian might have walked out of the bar and never remembered who he was again. A twist no one saw coming. Back in Columbus in 2022, a retired bartender from the Ugly Tuna makes a confession. He tells a local journalist there was a guy that night, dressed like a maintenance worker, said he was checking electrical in the back room. No one asked questions. He looked official, had tools, a badge, but after Brian disappeared, that man was never seen again. The badge? Fake. They look back through surveillance. Find nothing. No clear shot. Just a blurry frame of someone walking behind the bar at 1:55 a.m., right when Brian vanished. And then another dead end. The journalist who interviewed the bartender publishes the story. It goes viral. 3 weeks later, the bartender dies in a house fire, ruled accidental. No foul play suspected. Case closed. The private forum leak. Just months ago, 2024, a post appears on a hidden investigators forum. A known insider. Anonymous. Respected. He writes, Brian Shaffer is either dead or he escaped something we were never supposed to find. There were whispers of a second camera angle, one that showed too much. It was buried. The people who saw it were told never to speak of it again. Cliffhanger ending. And so, we're left with this. A man vanished, without a trace, from a bar surrounded by cameras, with no way out. And yet, he was never seen again. No body, no evidence, no farewell, just a phone that rang once. A smile caught on grainy tape, and a whisper across borders that maybe, just maybe, Brian Shaffer is still out there, watching, waiting, and not ready to come home. Or maybe someone made sure he never could. You thought the story was over. You thought we hit the final dead end. But in this case, every time the trail goes cold, something stirs. A voice, a clue, a flicker in the dark. And just when everyone stopped looking, Brian spoke. A voice on the internet. Late 2024. An anonymous user logs into a dark web forum dedicated to missing persons. They post a grainy image. It's a man in a dim room, facing away from a camera. Beside him, a guitar, a notebook, and a bottle of Jameson. Captioned, "The man who disappeared still sings." The post goes viral within the underground. Comments pour in. Some dismiss it. Others swear it's him. One user writes, "That's how he sat. That's how he played. That's Brian." They attach an old photo from his college band days. The resemblance is uncanny. Even the posture. The audio file. A week later, another post appears. This time, it's a voice recording. Rough, crackling, as if it were captured with a low-end mic. A male voice sings softly. Musical note, "Release me from myself." Musical note. It's haunting. One listener extracts the audio, runs it through a voice-matching tool. The result? 86% match with Brian Shaffer's known voice samples. Not perfect, but enough to rattle the community. A fragmented diary. Months after that recording surfaces, a digital forensics group uncovers more. In a defunct blog hosted in Iceland. Tied to the same username that posted the audio was a hidden journal. Pages full of coded entries, broken sentences, maps. One entry stood out. March 31st. I look back. I shouldn't have. That was the night Brian vanished. Another page reads, "She was right. I couldn't run forever." Who was she? His girlfriend? His mother? Or someone else? Luggage the backpack in the desert. December 2024. A hiker in the Arizona desert stumbles upon a sun-bleached backpack. Inside, a water-damaged wallet, 2 faded Polaroids, a tattered Ohio State hoodie, no ID, no cash, no phone, but the photos. One is of a beach, the other of a man sitting on a rooftop. He's facing away, but on the back of the photo, scribbled in ink, "Don't let them find me." DNA swabs were taken from the hoodie. Results? Still pending, or so they say. A phantom at the festival. Spring 2025. Coachella. A security guard reports an altercation in the backlit. Man in his 40s. No ID. Refuses medical help. Before walking away, he says, "I shouldn't be seen." The guard remembers the face. Weeks later, he sees a TikTok video on cold cases, freezes, calls his supervisor. It's him, he says. It's the guy from that bar. They check festival security footage. The moment is there, but the man's face is turned, and just before the camera catches a clear shot, he vanishes into the crowd. A new secret keeper. Now here's where it gets twisted. Someone is feeding breadcrumbs, and they know too much. A TikTok creator who covers cold cases receives a USB drive in an unmarked envelope. No return address, no fingerprints, no note, just a drive. Inside, a folder labeled Shaffer, a distorted photo of a man walking through an airport, a Word doc with one sentence. He never stopped running, but someone's finally catching up. FBI reopens case. Unofficial sources claim the FBI has quietly reopened the Brian Shaffer case under a new working title, Operation Lazarus. Why? Because now they believe Brian might still be alive, but not free. The captivity theory. What if Brian didn't disappear by choice? What if he was taken, held, manipulated, and made to stay silent? A long-term hostage, controlled, threatened, forced to vanish. Some say he might have escaped, or been released, but he no longer remembers who he was, or worse, remembers everything, but knows he can't go back. Because whoever did this is still out there. The father's final plea. Before his death, Brian's father, Randy, left a voice message for investigators. It was never made public. Until now. In it, he says, "If Brian's alive, I forgive him. If he's gone, I just want to know where he is." His voice breaks. Don't let this be another story that ends in silence. The last frame. Now think back to the last moment Brian was seen, smiling, laughing, turning into the bar's entrance. Then, gone. No exit. No trace. Just one last image. A man about to disappear. And maybe he still hasn't stopped running. Cliffhanger ending. But then, last week, a new email hits an amateur sleuth's inbox. Subject line, Brian. Inside, just one sentence. You're looking in the wrong country. And a photo attachment, blurry, taken from a distance, but unmistakable. A man in a straw hat, sunglasses, and a pearl jam t-shirt, sitting at a cafe in Bangkok. Narrator, whisper, "Is it him? And if it is, why now?" The email came from a burner address. No IP, no trace, just a warning, and a photo from Bangkok. The message? You're looking in the wrong country. The man in the picture looks aged, worn, but alive. He wears a straw hat, pearl jam shirt, and his face, covered by shadows. The Bangkok lead. An independent journalist flies to Thailand, tracks down the cafe in the photo. It's real. He shows the image to the barista. She frowns, then nods slowly. He comes here, every few days. She calls him the professor, says he keeps to himself, always pays in cash, and carries a worn leather notebook. But when asked where he lives, she shrugs. No one knows. He disappears. A hidden photo. The journalist waits. Days go by. Finally, the man appears. He's alone. Sits by the window. Orders black coffee. The journalist snaps a photo. Then approaches him. "Are you Brian?" The man freezes. His eyes widen. And then he runs. Out the door. Into the street. Gone. The notebook clue. The man drops something in his rush. A napkin. Scribbled on it. They're still watching. And under it, it wasn't the bar. It was after. Rewriting the night. New theory. Darker. Brian didn't disappear inside the bar. He made it out. But someone was waiting. Someone followed him. Lured him. Took him. Or convinced him. He had no choice. Operation Erase. What if a cover-up began that night? A camera blind spot. A false narrative. What if someone erased the footage? What if the truth wasn't that he vanished, but that someone made it look like he never left? In 2025, a retired Columbus police tech admits this. The original security hard drives? Gone. Replaced. Quietly. No paperwork. When? 2 days after Brian's disappearance. Why? No answer. Just silence. A hacker breaks through. A digital forensics hacker leaks a corrupt file, pulled from an archive backup. Blurry. Broken. But frame by frame, something emerges. 1:57 a.m. A man, Brian, walking down a hallway. Not the main bar. Somewhere else. Lit by red emergency lights. He's not alone. A second figure follows. No face, but wearing gloves. Then, the feed cuts. A political name surfaces. In a shocking twist, a name surfaces buried in case files. A donor, connected to the bar, connected to campus, known for cleaning things up. A powerful figure with ties to law enforcement. The same man reportedly paid for the replacement security system 2 days after Brian vanished. Coincidence? Or something more? The cover-up theory. It's now considered possible. Brian saw something he shouldn't have. He confronted someone. Or was in the wrong place. And instead of help, he was disappeared. Silenced. Not by a random act, but by design. The final item, a return address. Weeks later, a podcaster covering the case receives a box. No postage, just dropped at the studio's door. Inside, a VHS tape, a plane ticket stub, Bangkok to Sydney, and a burned ID card. The name? Brian R. Shaffer. They play the tape. It's static. Then an image. Brian, or someone who looks like him. looking directly into the camera. He says nothing, just stares, for 13 seconds. Then the screen cuts to black. The creepiest part, audio from the tape, when enhanced, reveals something in the background. A whisper, barely audible, repeated twice. "Don't bring me back." What we still don't know. Was Brian Shaffer kidnapped? Did he run from something darker than grief? Did he witness a crime? Was he brainwashed? Or did he become someone else entirely? No body, no confession, no closure, only more questions. And then just last week, an email leaks from a government account. It's flagged classified. The subject line, Shaffer, priority remains active. Attached, a photo, date stamped just days ago. The man is sitting at a cafe, same straw hat, same pearl jam shirt. And next to him, a man in a black suit, wearing an earpiece, watching. So, who's really pulling the strings? Where is Brian Shaffer? And if he's alive, why is he being protected? Or worse, why is he being hunted? The man who vanished in a bar may be closer than ever, but finding him could cost everything. Brian Shaffer walked into a crowded bar and vanished without a trace. No struggle, no clue, no closure. A man lost in plain sight. And nearly 2 decades later, we're still asking the same question. Where is Brian Shaffer? If he's alive, why hasn't he come back? And if he's gone, why is someone still covering their tracks? Was it a random disappearance? Or something far more orchestrated? Someone out there knows the truth. Maybe it's time they talked. Until then, Brian remains a ghost in the machine, a name frozen in time, a face no one can forget. Pause. Music rises subtly. If this story disturbed you, confused you, or shook you, you're not alone. Drop your theory in the comments. Like this video if you want more deep dives. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next mystery might already be watching you.